Hello, everybody. This is Asha Saxena. I am your host and the CEO of World Leaders in Data and AI. Always excited to have this conversation with you in real time on LinkedIn Live with the community because we talk about important issues that relate to us, the data and AI community, the business leaders who are looking at us to deliver results. So when ChatGPT came out, it made us all heroes. We were talking about AI in conference rooms, at business meetings, but also at social networks and at home. ChatGPT was launched, and everybody was talking about what AI could do. But the smarter question is what AI cannot do, or what can AI undo? So, with that, I want to welcome you all to the AI Talk Show. I'm thrilled to open this session today with a critical question about what organization, boardrooms, and policy office is talking about. It's the real challenge, the challenge of understanding the compliance, understanding the innovation with the risk, and able to scale the trust. As leaders in the industry, we need to understand how to build these guardrails and protect our data, protect our models, and be able to continue to be innovative. Yesterday we were at a conference, and the conversation was about, is data and AI going to become a cost center, or will AI and data be the innovative levers for the organizations? AI is driving innovation, is driving change, and it's promising a lot. The question is, can we use that promise and innovation in a more responsible way, ethical way, and make sure that we as leaders can use governance as an innovation driver? Governance is not about slowing down AI, it's about scaling it responsibly. With that, I want to get into it. Our guest today, Dr. Eva-Marie. I'm so excited to have you, Eva, here on this show to talk about such an important topic. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Asha, and thank you so much for inviting me today.
You've served as the partner at Data and AI at EY. You've been the CTO of AI at IBM. Your journey has been really impressive. Before we get started, I want the audience to hear a little bit about your background. So can we maybe just jump into the past and look at your career and your journey and how you got here?
My journey actually started many years ago when I decided to start studying mathematics at university. At that time, mathematics was a very small subject, and most people asked me, do you want to become a professor or an actuary? And I always said, I'm not really sure, but I'll figure it out. But mathematics was definitely my big passion. But to make sure I'm not just stuck with something so theoretically, which everyone was saying, you will never ever get a job with it, I backed it up with business and economics, and also with computer science. So to give it some more practical approach. I then studied or did my PhD in medical physics, building machine learning algorithms to understand blood flow in human bodies, analyzing sound signals, ultrasound signals. And I started my career actually in financial modeling, where we were building large scale, mostly Excel files on saying, how can we understand how companies work, what makes them make more revenue, how can we cut the cost, and so on. I then became restructuring director and head of investments at a hedge fund. And we realized that most of the tables that we're building our revenue models on are so simplified that we can't really use them. And based on that, we started to look at, do we find more information about our assets? One of our asset class was about life settlements. And we realized people don't die when they're supposed to die. And the probability of an extremely wealthy 70-year-old with no kids, but really great healthcare, personal trainer, gym, and no stress at all is, of course, very different to somebody with no healthcare, smoker in a rough area, and so on. And maybe even having multiple kids and multiple jobs. And based on these assumptions, we then managed to fine-tune our models and really outperform the market. I then joined KPMG and I founded what was probably Europe's first data science and AI team in 2013. We were calling it building always on machines to help business decisions. And it was the beautiful wild, wild west before any GDPR. So we got all the information of one of the world's largest telco companies. We knew exactly who called whom, from which location, for how long, how often, who paid which bills. And on top of that, we connected it with OpenStreetMap information, with weather information, with event information, and we built what we called back then KPMG secret sauce. We fed this huge data ecosystem in our models, and we were very good in targeting target marketing, in forecasting store performance or retail stores by day. If the temperature goes up, what products are going to be bought compared to when the temperature goes down. Fraud detection, banking the underbanked. We work with governments and insurance company pretty much along the line. I then moved in 2017 to the Middle East, and I became IBM's first CTO for artificial intelligence, where we really transformed how IBM sees their software development and also their clients, for away from somebody where we want to sell our software to somebody who we really help to be successful in their journey. We take our technology and everything we can bring to the table, but the most important story is, or part of the story is, where's the client now and how can we get from good to absolutely amazing and ensure that they're outperforming the market. I was leading by square meters the largest region in the world. That brought certain challenges with it. For example, that we had a lot of people in very remote areas who wanted to find out more about AI. So I set up the MEA data science and AI community. I set up the worldwide data and AI work group under the Academy of Technology and the Center of Excellence concept for IBM, which was so successful that we became one of the most successful regions in the world. In the Academy of Technology, I led a large study on explainable AI, and we got together 60 of IBM's most excellent technical leaders and experts, where actually the first month we spent discussing what does actually explainable means, because we got all the words like what AI needs to look like, but their translation was actually really in a technical term. What does our offering look like? How do we implement it? How do we implement transparency, security, and so on into AI system? That were all very unknown topics we had to challenge. After IBM, I joined EY. I scaled the data and AI practice for the last 4 years, where we are basically working with clients here in the region and helping them from their data governance to their infrastructure all the way to use case implementation across pretty much all industries. But of course, in the Middle East, our biggest focus are the governments, oil and gas, and the financial sector. I have now left EY, and I'm planning to set up my own consulting company here in the region, and then probably, hopefully one day go globally.
Congratulations for a fabulous career. I mean, from banking to government to consulting, it's a a wealth of knowledge which you have collected throughout the years. And when we talk about the compliance and cyber risk, uh, in industries like finance, healthcare, and government, this is on top of everybody's mind. The topic of trust and cyber risk, especially in the day and age of AI, has become really critical. With your experience in all these sectors, first of all, I have to congratulate you to be able to be in various different sectors and understand and cross feed and cross learn from different industries is really valuable. And the fact that you've been able to do that and bring it to your clients is incredible. Uh, the What I would love to hear from you is really about this whole cybersecurity, because with AI, do believe that AI has redefined how cybersecurity really is today. The systems
Absolutely.
are not just tools, right? They are targets or they're vectors. They're amplifying the attacks. I was talking to another client who was talking about this whole model inversion attacks that's reversing the engineering inputs from LLM. The GPT based systems are leaking sensitive corporate prompts, or the deep fake, or the synthetic voices. They're coming up where one of the organization acquired a company, and this deep fake of a corporate accountant gets this CEO's deep fake about the transfer of funds, which was really a phishing
Yeah.
attack. So this is becoming more and more sophisticated. And in fact, IBM published a report where they said Gen AI has now 30% higher success rate in traditional attempts. So this has become more real. What have you seen? How organizations are dealing with it, and what has been working uh, to be more cautious about this?
Absolutely. So yeah, we actually see AI playing a double role on that. So first of all, we apply AI to cybersecurity to make our cybersecurity better. We have, for example, amazing AI agents that can work as an advisor to the CISO and help looking up the guidelines and rules and so on, saying in case of a breach, do this, first step, second step, and so on, where it makes and even trigger the right responses, which makes the job of the CISO much faster and easier. But of course, we also see AI as one of the verticals, basically, that drives new challenges because as a defender, the good people can have AI, also the bad actors can use AI. So we can use AI to detect spam emails, to detect fraud, but also the bad actors can use AI to understand where are the 0 days in a certain solution, where is the bank actually not paying attention, and be much more sophisticated and faster in their and aggressive in how they attack companies and governments. We also, as you mentioned, the deep fake problem is definitely a new threat that we had not seen before. We have hyper-realistic phishing attempts,
Right.
very sophisticated malware, which just evade the traditional defense mechanism. We had never ever had to train our employees before and saying, if you have a conference call with your boss to release funds, it might not be your boss. And also then the question, in that scenario, who's responsible? There are people who say actually the software developer or the AI developer has to make sure that their software can't be misused, which is very difficult in saying we have an interface where you can have a phone call as a cat or something else. And even then, why not as a uploaded image? Is it the fraudster? Of course. Is the employee who hasn't picked up the phone and called the boss?
Right.
And
Exactly.
the two-factor verification. Or was it actually the organization who completely had it not on their radar to think about these kind of trainings? As this was a first of a kind incident at that scale, we can say they're probably off the hook because nobody saw it coming. But now that we have seen these events happening, there needs to be guardrails in place that there's no second of these cases, that it doesn't go viral. But we have a huge issue with deepfakes from governments and so on, and it also goes in two ways. So people are sharing deepfakes because they want to manipulate, they want to influence, and sometimes they share it because they just think it explains the story very well, and there's no bad thoughts behind it, or they think it's particularly cute and so on, and they end up participating in something malicious without realizing that they are being malicious. So actually a case of accidental manipulation of other or malicious attempts. And I think these are all questions we that are new for us, and that we have to really look at in the future.
That I what I say to people is that trust but verify. And we are living in the world where, of course, from news, the media, from attacks, from emails, your voicemails, your calls, you have to trust, uh, but you have to verify. You cannot trust without verifying. It becomes really important that you ask for the source. Another great
Yeah,
example is that the voice, if you feel your mom's calling you, your son's calling you, your friend is calling you asking for money or for your credit card information, you tell them to put the phone down and you call them back. So there's a lot
yeah,
of really great ways to continue verifying before you trust. And we live in a world which is uh, you know providing a lot of fake news. We talk about AI hallucination, but there is a lot of uh, conscious effort of uh, the breach. So you just have to be more careful, and also training. As a corporation, are you providing enough training to your employees to make sure that they don't click on the emails that and as a cybersecurity, we've lived in the digital age now for a while, even before the AI came in. These acts and these trainings and these precautions are mandatory to make sure
yeah.
that you're being careful.
I like the example that you mentioned about calling your parents or your family members and asking for money, because as our parents are getting older, they grew up in a world where there was no computers or hardly any computers. The idea of somebody calling them and knowing your children's name and saying they had a car accident or something like that, maybe even knowing the brand of the car because they had access to your retail information or something, that is so unimaginably for our parents. And they grew up in a world where they really had to listen to the authorities. So if somebody calls and says he's the police, they they listen to it. And if they get caught in the wrong moment, they are very vulnerable. Maybe they've just been worrying about something, their daughter, their son, or thought like, oh, I haven't heard from them for like 3 days.
Right.
What happened? And if then the fraudster really grabs that moment, um, there is a very, very high risk. And I actually spoke to my friends recently about it, and we were all realizing that our families are not prepared enough. And we decided to actually call each other parents and pretending to be the police and so on. It was a bit mean, but we also realized like talking to them doesn't work. We had to actually get them through the training, calling them
Right.
and then saying, no, sorry, this is Eva, the friend of your son, daughter, and this is a training call because we want to make sure our parents don't do this.
That's
Um,
very interesting.
so seeing the family as the corporate, the microcosmos, like running the family Inc. and making sure
Right.
we have our family's security running and the training is,
Right.
I think, a personal thing that everyone can take away from this.
That's very, very interesting. And I think what a great message to actually use that in your personal life. I mean, we talk about it in government and in our corporate world, but also actually bring it home and make sure that we are protected at individual level, and our family is protected at an individual level.
Yeah.
Um, very interesting. And like, as we talk about security, but let's move on to the government. I mean, governments are acting on AI. As soon as AI came out, the EU AI Act came out. In US, the executive order now is mandating red teaming for safety, bias mitigation audit. It's also talking about the content watermarking and model provisioning. So really, if you think about it, if you can't explain how your model makes decision, you're not just vulnerable, you're out of compliance now. You've worked with government, you work with large organization. What have you seen where the governance and compliance frameworks work? What are the best practices would you recommend for organization looking to ensure that AI-driven tools are both secure and compliant while they're also driving the strategic value? I know it seems like a big ask, but what we say is that you have to start the journey early on. You cannot think about security, compliance, ethics, responsible AI at a later state. It has to be at the time when you're designing the system.
Absolutely. And I think what companies have to do, and what I've seen work very well, is really evolutionize your risk management that you currently have. Make sure you have a risk management that has really AI risk assessment and is specific for that as well. So look at the unique threats that are coming through the AI you're running. So for example, prompt injection, data poisoning, model inversion, and so on. And look at what the business impact of all these different types are. Look at on the data governance side, what data do you actually have? What is that quality? What is the bias? Personal identifiable information, how is that handled, how is that secured, and see how when we say we want to have our AI transparent, how transparent is it actually? Is it documented? How protected is everything? How secure is it? Have you tested for biases? And make sure that the AI, especially as a government, is aligned with the ethical AI principles. The big problem we also see with agentic AI, where you basically have, for example, your fridge checking if you have enough milk and then ordering it and paying it with your credit card and so on. You have many different vendors and solutions being part of it. And every single one of them handles sensitive information about where you live, how many
Right.
people are in your household, how often do you buy milk, and so on, and your credit card information. So you have to make sure the whole chain is trustable from the beginning to the end. And yeah, so there are many new skills that you have to get into your team. So you also have to look into where's your team now? Do you have the right roles and responsibilities? And even like the top, what I see is having clear whistleblower guidelines, having whistleblower protection, and having an AI ethic board that in your company, when people think the AI is not trusted, it's not secure, that they know how to escalate, and they don't get punished for being honest and saying, actually, this doesn't work. So yeah, I have seen companies in the market who are very careful and rigorous in what they're implementing, especially for banks, for oil and gas, where small errors cost massive. But even when you don't think about the direct financial impact, badly built AI, biased AI might directly impact your corporate value, valuation, and melt the value of your stock market price. We've seen that in the past
Absolutely.
before, where people got so upset about badly built AI and saying this company is very racist or discriminates against certain demographics. And it was really bad for them to recover, and it cost them a lot of money.
You know, great point, because a lot of times when you think about the ethics, the responsible AI, you think about security and liability, all this governance. It feels like it's like a drag. It feels like it's going to slow us down, but in fact, if you are more cautious about catching the bias early on, I mean, we started Wilda. The whole premise of Builder was to make sure that we build a digital world with AI, and we leave this world behind, which is more fair, equitable, and we are more solving the problem of bias. We need to, as engineers, this is our opportunity to make sure that we leave the world a better place. As engineers, as we are creating these models, we think about doing it right. So we leave the world a fair digital world with parity and equity. And that's really the mission of WILDA, which we stand by. And I have to say, a lot of times when you think about it, I had one of our members who was telling me that one of the analysts in their group came to them and said, it was a pharmaceutical company, and they said, we don't have enough data for women in this study. So they went out and got the right data set to make sure that they can do their research. And at the end, the results were completely different because now they had the right amount of data. And so I think it's so important that as engineers, as creator of this technology, we take responsibility of fixing it. So listen, we live in the world which is biased, but we cannot fix and go out solve that problem overnight. But what we can do is, as we build our models and our applications, we're thinking about how to solve that problem because we can catch the bias early on.
I completely agree. And I think 10 years ago, bias wasn't such a big topic in daily conversations because
Exactly.
we had the feeling the world is unfair, but we haven't had the tools to prove it. Now we have exactly the tools to prove it and saying, no, the way the banks were giving out credits was actually not fair. But when we build models on data that is unfair, then they still stay unfair. There's a joke that I really like to tell about this. Machine learning algorithm goes into a bar, and the barkeeper says, "So, what are you having?" And the machine learning algorithm pauses for a moment, looks around, and says, "The same as everybody else." And if that bar has been traditionally a bar where you only had men drinking beer, it will never start serving something else, and it will never attract a different crowd. And so we have to make sure that going forward, we actually, as you say, we build a world we want to live in. We make sure that with our AI, we are actually also giving equal chances differently of race, religion, age, or any other demographics that actually have nothing to do with your ability to repay your loan or not.
I have to first of all thank you for taking time out to talk to us. It is an important questions about the ethics, the governance, the security. As we live in the world, which is so fast, changing, evolving, with new models every 3 months coming out, AI is going to change our world. But how do we look at the governance? How do we think about, thinking about AI inventory, knowing what is in use, understanding the risk scoring, prioritizing high impact models, or even looking at the human insight? It's always keeping a human in the loop for critical decision making, or thinking about reporting, incident reporting, right? Or AI specific playbooks that are in practice. It's about making sure that we are creating something which the performance is important, but also make sure that it's transparent, it's fairness, and make sure it's cyber protected. Uh, as engineers, as leaders in tech, it is important to look at the results to reduce bias. Fewer regulatory issues as we are building these, and increasing stakeholder trust. It's all about the trust. Uh, I want to take a moment to thank you, Dr. Ava, for coming here and talking to us and making this time for our LinkedIn viewers more productive. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your participation.
Thank you, Asha, for inviting me.
The last thought I would say, uh, if there's one thing I want you to walk away today, that is AI doesn't just need innovation; it needs intention. Intention to do the right things. We're not just launching the models anymore. We're shaping systems that make decisions about people, for people, sometimes without people even knowing. So the question isn't about, are we governing AI correctly? But the question really is, can we afford not to govern? Whether you are leading security, compliance, product, or policy, this is the moment to act. I would say to all of you, start with visibility, build accountability, and more importantly, embed your values into the architecture itself. Because trust in AI isn't about building when things go wrong. It's the test when things go wrong. And governance is when we keep us grounded when the systems move faster than we do. Thank you for
Ab-
being the part of this conversation and more
Absolutely.
importantly, part of the solution.
Sorry, absolutely spot on, Asha. And I think I'd like to bust a myth on AI governance, because people always say governance hinders innovation. And as you mentioned earlier, I completely disagree with that. We would not go on a plane that has not security and that we can't trust to transport it directly. And if you deploy AI that you can't trust, it is like getting on a plane that you have no idea who built it, how was it built, has never been tested, and you're flying it blind. And as we would never do it with ourselves, why should we do that with our businesses? Good governance actually, improves innovation, accelerates innovation, because we know that what we bring to the market has a value and will deliver a positive impact and not a negative.
Exactly. And I hope the listeners are walking away with something that they can go back to their work and start implementing. Dr. Ava is available on LinkedIn, so please reach out to her. I'm here on LinkedIn. Please reach out to me if there's anything we can do to make sure that we make your journey easier. With that, from both of us, we say goodbye, and please stay connected. Feel free to join WLDA.tech, the newsletter, and we'll make sure that we include you in all the events we are having and continue to make a positive impact in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.